Gildo, his musical training was in Chicago, and he also studied with Luigi Ricci in Rome, who, if any of you were here for Jane Clavider's talk, who is an opera conductor, she also studied with Luigi Ricci in the traditions of Italian opera and bel canto opera. So I will call for Gildo now, and he will give us a talk about the backstage musical effects.
The only reason why Luciano Pavarotti called me for those rehearsals is because I love to eat.
I don't believe so.
Well, he says the same thing. He says, how is it we eat the same thing and you're so skinny? I'm not that skinny. Anyway, I want to start with imagining that we're at the opera, and you know, you have read the program and you know exactly now what's going on, and so you're sitting there. There's just a few minutes left before the curtain goes up, and you're looking, probably thinking, I wonder what's going on behind that curtain. You know, it's sort of fun, and you think, well, I know they must be calling the chorus to the stage, and they must be calling the principals, and the electricians are doing the final focusing of the lights. You know, it's total chaos. The stage manager's calling the conductor's room and saying, Maestro, we have 2 minutes. And if you're thinking that, you're right, that's exactly what goes on. But there is a thing, now tonight let us say the opera's Rigoletto, because that's what we're going to begin with. There is a group of stagehands that are setting up 15 music stands in very much downstage and very much on stage. That means in the wings. On stage means as close as you can get to the stage without being seen. And that's the direction is called on stage or off stage or down stage or up stage. So very down in the corner, way down here, but out of view, they're setting up these stands. And meanwhile, there are about 15 musicians who are unpacking their instruments and warming up as well. And they are, well, this talk we sort of called the unseen and the unforeseen in opera. Well, they're part of the unseen. So, what I'm going to do, I have to apologize for, this machine is not so wonderful. So, if we can't hear, there are things I really want you to hear, and I may use the microphone, you know, we'll see. Anyway, I want to start with, we're going to do the opening of Rigoletto, the prelude, just the end. Oh, another thing. I, of course, have made terrible cuts in the music. I mean, they're just very jarring, so don't be too jarred. But I mean, I did that for time, because of time. Okay? But now this is the end of the prelude to Rigoletto. Well, that's not bad, okay? Okay, it's not bad. Now, listen. Curtain up. Now what's that? That's the unseen. That's those 15 people in the wings playing. And it's not the orchestra, no. And actually, I want to read Grove's dictionary, of course, is one of the authorities. I want to read what that's called a stage bed, or banda interna. A group of instruments that perform on stage level either behind the scenes or in view of the audience. As the banda was under separate direction and its composition varied from theater to theater, the bandmaster scored in detail what the composer wrote out on 2 staves as for a piano reduction. So that Verdi did not actually, for instance in this, did not actually orchestrate what you're hearing. But it was done by well, in the days of Verdi, it was done by the bandmaster of the Banda di Piazza. You know, every city had a banda of the that played in the main piazza. They played concerts and they played festivals, and when they were doing something at the theater, they played the stage bands. So it was that person who the bandmaster of that group that would orchestrate these things. Okay, so then, you know, you might say, well, why? Why a banda? I mean, why not just play everything in the pit? Well, of course, small opera companies do play everything in the pit because it's much more economic. But Verdi didn't want that. Verdi wanted it, and he had and every other composers who used that kind of thing. He wanted this for what? For the atmosphere that it creates, the atmosphere and the depth, and it gives it a whole other thing. The best analogy I think I could make is a painting. A well-done painting has a background which actually tends to accentuate, or at least it brings into relief the foreground. In a good painting does that. And so our musical painting is the same thing. There's the banda music that you hear back there, which certainly, with the singers up front singing against it, it really, you know, si salta fuori, they come up and they really just come out because of that. There's another parallel that I cannot, in music, that I can't really find in the painting, and that is the third voice. The third voice is the voice in the pit, in the orchestra, in the pit. So that when I'm thinking about this musical picture, I'm thinking of this background music, and then the foreground doing their scene, and then every now and then the orchestra in the pit will join, either again, I'm talking specifically about Rigoletto, the beginning of Rigoletto. They will join to accompany an aria, as happens very soon in the thing, or will comment. It's a voice of commentary that's very, very interesting because it comes in and it sort of says, what's going on there? And so now we'll go on here and we'll hear the. Now this is the Duke and his friend Borson. They're just talking, you know, about the girl that he saw in church every week. But still the stage band is playing. The orchestra has not played since the end of the prelude. And I'm jumping a lot. I mean, there's a whole long section. Now, the orchestra. That's the orchestra coming in. And the reason for that is it takes us out of, that orchestra takes us, it's sort of like a freeze frame, because the aria of the tenor has nothing really to do what was going on. Now, this is something I haven't told you about. The end of the aria, the orchestra will stop and there'll be a stage band, a string stage band. So this is why tickets to the opera are expensive. There's this little banda playing this minuet. And now this is the background for the Duke, for the scene of the Duke flirting with the Countess Ceprano. And the Count is just over there. He's not far away, but the Duke doesn't care. Now, I think... Yeah, good. Okay, so there's that. Now, there's one other thing I want to tell you. Linda sort of mentioned it as she was giving this little introduction, that the technicality for the backstage conductor, the technique of getting this all to connect and to work, is kind of complicated. One has to, of course, conduct these people, and you have to bring them in ahead always ahead of the beat that's happening in the pit, or what the singers are singing on stage. There are times that you'll hear a little later where it's only a connection between the banda and the singers. There's nothing in the pit. And that's also difficult because you really can't, believe it or not, from the wings you can't hear, you barely hear the singers because those voices are going out. But, okay, and then the other thing in this, I just want to do this other little thing. We're going to get an example. Yes, question.
Yeah, what kind of...
Yes, please ask questions. Don't wait till...
Yeah, what kind of connection do you have?
Good, that's a good question. See, I'm glad you did that. There's a remote, the television remote, that shows me the conductor in the pit. So there's a camera on him, and I get his picture facing me. So I have to coordinate that. And yes, that's a good question. I never even... See, I take it all for granted, right? But please ask questions, yes.
And the conductor also sees the backstage in a monitor or something?
No. He doesn't see anything. He just trusts us. Yes.
How was it done before television?
Oh, that's very good, because I worked before it was even invented. No. But you're right, we didn't, in my early days at the Met, which was in the old theater, we didn't have television. So we looked through holes in the scenery. Wow. And, you would look through a hole in the scenery and you'd be conducting that way. And there were a couple of things. God, I hadn't thought about this for years. There were two ways of doing it. One was looking through a hole in the scenery, which was very dangerous because, someone was about to stand right in front of you. And you'd be saying, get out of the way! And the other thing was, we had one of the assistant conductors, there was a mechanism there was a keyboard, and he would see the conductor through, somewhere down by the stage manager's desk. He could see the conductors, and he would bring you the beat, and it would light up. It would do 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was horrible. I mean, that was the worst. Anyway, when we got to the new theater at Lincoln Center, we, of course, had closed-circuit television, and then it was really nice. It was much easier. This is a funny anecdote. I'm so glad you said. When I was very, very new and very young, and the first thing I was conducting was Birgit Nielsen doing in Valkyrie. The first thing she sings is that off stage. So I was bringing her the beat. It was so loud, I felt like I was being pushed through the scenery. That voice was like, anyway, so, so what I wanted to, in this thing, now, I just want to bring out that third voice that I was talking about, the pit voice. There's one point here where, when we get to it, I'll talk about it. There's a few things that happened before that. Where were we? He was doing the minuet, yeah. Okay. When we get to the place, I'll tell you, I'm going to say, there's the orchestra commenting, because Rigoletto is being very, very malicious. He's saying, it doesn't matter, take his head off. And the orchestra is saying, nice. You check it out. That's another connection thing. You're connecting with the soloist. Okay, I forgot about this. This is the string band again. This is a perigordino. Perigordino was a dance form in that time. It was sometimes, the present production of the Met, these string people are on the stage, actually. They're in costume on stage. They're not backstage. This is the end of Perigordino, where the brass band has to connect with the end of this. And so there's not a big lag in time. Now we're going to skip to the, yes. Listen to the orchestra. Here. Here. And then the banda comes in again. You know, it's just, it's sort of, you know, it's okay. What? Yeah, there's a lot of going back and forth, yeah. And it takes a lot of coordination, and what it really does is, but you see how it adds so much of a dimension to the thing, because you're getting sound. Now, I have to tell you in all fairness that this is, you know, these tapes are not, you don't get the effect that you would in the theater, because in the theater, you would be very aware of that orchestra when it comes in. You may not, you know, think of it as I just described it, but something will happen to you when you hear that. Okay, well, that's the end of Rigoletto, but now we have to get to the first unforeseen. And this happened in Rigoletto maybe 25 years ago. You know, usually you go to the opera and the tenor or the soprano or the baritone usually lasts the whole evening. But there are times when a cover has to go on, and so that can happen. But I don't remember any time that there were 3 Gildas.
Oh my goodness.
There were 3 in Rigoletto. And the way it happened was that the main Gilda, who was scheduled that night, after the Caro Nome, after she sang her big aria, and of course everything that happened before, you know, there were 2 duets, and it's a big thing. Well, she had just, it was finished, her voice, you know, so she couldn't go on. And she just got off the stage, and she was going to the dressing room, just, you know, they were running after her and saying, oh, you know, blah, blah, blah. I won't tell you who it was, but I understand she's teaching voice now. But anyway, it was, so she's going off to the dressing room, and the next entrance of Gilda isn't until somewhere in the middle of the next act, so they had the whole intermission to get the cover ready, which was fine, except they forgot that in that scene, Gilda has to sing off stage, "Soccorso padre mio," right? She has 2 little lines to sing in the abduction, when they're abducting her. And I said, hey, where's she going? What? And so the lady who was singing Giovanna, I said, Giovanna, come here. You're going to sing this. She said, I never sang this before. I said, well, here's the music. You're going to sing it. So she sang. So those were our 3 Gildas.
That was a catastrophe.
And that is a real catastrophe. And anyway, now we're going to go on to Ballo in Maschera, also Verdi. Also the same kind of stage band. There's a brass band and also, surprisingly, here it is. You can hardly hear the stage band. Now, what I want to tell you about this stage band, first of all, the Ballo stage bands are much more elegant than the Rigoletto ones. The Rigoletto ones, actually, someone wrote, the Rigoletto the bandas capture the worthless gallivanting of an amoral society, which it sort of does. It's kind of rinky-dink music, really. But the Ballo stage bands are more interesting. Now Verdi uses a device right here that I had to stop to explain. A kind of a what do we call it? A cutaway shot. The tenor is singing with the page Oscar, and the banda is playing. That's the only thing playing. But the banda stops. The tenor singing. The banda starts again. Tenor sings some more. Banda stops and starts, and it is horribly difficult to do because you don't hear a thing.
Did Verdi compose the banda music too?
Yes, he composed it. He just didn't orchestrate the banda music. Actually, the only thing he did do was he indicated. He wrote on 2 staves like a piano, you know. He wrote the music with the harmonies and things, but it was orchestrated by the banda master of whatever banda they were using. And But what he did do is occasionally he would say, now here I want fewer instruments, because he wanted, you know, if it was a conversational thing, he wanted less sound. We can't get any less sound, but this is terrible. But anyway, this is, the first little scene is just to show you what the cutaway, how it stops and goes. I'm sorry, it isn't very clear, but anyway, this, the king on this thing is Placido, the main one. Yeah. You listen. Banda again.
Nel ballo qualcuno nella mia vita tenterà spavento, ma se n'arresto che pavento diran.
See? That's how that happens.
Nessuno sospettarlo bene.
Now, all of this is a real coordination thing, because it keeps playing. Orchestra starts to just do this little business with the tenor. Bum, banda. That's Placido. Now this orchestra, banda, orchestra, banda, orchestra, banda, orchestra. Okay, and the walls open up, and right there, the walls open up. And it revealed that first scene is done is in the king's sort of study. And the walls just pull back, and then the whole ballroom, the final ballroom scene, the chorus, orchestra. There you have chorus, orchestra, and banda all playing together, which gives this wonderful, of course, this wonderful effect. But now, the next unforeseen. The banda, I told you, the walls go out. Now, when we had new people playing backstage, we always say, if it's something like that, we say, be very careful that at a certain point, you know, don't be frightened, because these walls are going to come at you. The stagehands are pulling them off, and, you know, just be careful. And we had a new oboe player one night, and all of a sudden, the walls went between her and us, right? She was on the other side of the wall. And this wall, and after things cleared and she was like, it was off, we had a chance. I said, are you okay? You didn't get hurt? No, I didn't, but she looked terrified. And she said, but you know, I want you to know, I didn't miss a note. Yes.
That's going to sort of be my next question. Are you counting measures of breaths?
Yes.
Just like the instruments?
Yeah.
So it's almost as if you're an orchestrator yourself. In that sense. You
Yeah.
have to count your measures of
Yeah,
breaths.
well, actually, you really do it the way a conductor would do it. You're doing, like when they're doing, you're doing, you know, you're giving it to them. And meanwhile, you're bringing in the beat, and meanwhile, everything that you're doing has to be way ahead of what's on the television. Otherwise, it won't come out sounding like that. Because of distance. The distance from the wings to the pit to the auditorium. Yes, exactly. It takes time. So that's her. Now we're going to do, let me see, oh yeah. Now we're going to go on, well, since I've stopped, we have a few little interesting little dialogue scenes where the dialogue is, for instance, the conspirators, well, you will hear. Here's this very elegant kind of little dance music going on, and the conspirators are talking about how they're going to kill the king, or, you know, what is the password, and what kind of a costume, because it's a masked ball. What kind of a costume is he going to be wearing? That's okay. This is the end of that. So the walls have opened already. Okay, I'm sorry we have to cut like that. It's terrible. No, no. They're discarded. Then Oscar comes in. This is an example of one of the places that, where Verdi says, make the banda smaller here. Yeah, this is the end. This is the end of this scene. Now comes now the string banda plays a mazurka. And actually, the mazurka is, everybody thinks it's a minuet, but it's not. A minuet would be correct for the period, but the actual form is a mazurka. I'm sorry, let's see.
Maybe the mic would help.
Yeah. Is it now?
Yeah. Battery.
I don't know if I put it on or off. Okay, oh, wait, stop. This is what I really want you to hear. So during all of that mazurka, there's a long duet with the tenor and his, the soprano, his mistress. And she's saying, go, because something awful is going to happen here. You must leave. But he loves her. He's not going to leave. And the mazurka is playing off in the other room. And right here where we were, the orchestra, that third voice, yes.
What's the difference between a mazurka and a minuet?
Good question. It's a very technical question, but a mazurka, they're both in 3/4. The mazurka is the second beat. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. So the third voice now at the end of the minuet, it's coming close to the time for the baritone to kill the tenor, and the orchestra tells you that. Now it happened. Unfortunately, when I made this tape, I cut. I only have 2 or 3 of these. They're sort of death warnings. It's like the orchestra goes. That's all it does while that banda is playing. Do you see why it's important that there should be a banda and the orchestra as opposed to just?
How many people in the banda?
Well, in the Rigoletto and in both of those bands, I think Rigoletto is about 15 brass players.
What?
And this one more even. I think they're about 18 or 19. And then in the string bandas, there aren't as many. There are like 5 in the Rigoletto for the minuet. And for the mazurka, there are about, I think they're about 8, I think. It's not as big as that. But again, that's why taking so long. Let's hear if we can hear that little third voice doing that. Okay. And then, now there's been a big chorus of infame, they killed. But suddenly, the mazurka is still playing. They're in the other room. Nobody knows that has happened. People in this room know it, but those people don't. And what's great is the device that Verdi uses. Because slowly, you get the feeling that the word is getting back there. Something has gone amiss. And this is how he does it. That's it. Just by this kind of beep, bum, bum, bum. You can just imagine him saying, what? King's been killed? So, I know, next time you see Ballo, you'll, maybe you'll remember those. Okay. Now I have something here, what else? Oh, I have one more, sort of party banda, as I call those. In other words, a banda which takes place off stage and stuff goes on in front of it on stage. And this is from Peter Grimes. Now this is totally, obviously, totally different. It's a whole other period. Peter Grimes. It's a street scene, and there's the Moot Hall is the town hall where they do have dances on Saturday night, and it is a Saturday night dance. I don't know if it's Saturday, but it is a dance. And the banda that plays back there, I'll tell you, are two B-flat clarinets, a solo violin, a solo bass, and percussion with snare drum and cymbals and bass drum. So it's a real little dance orchestra, but it's a strange orchestration. Now this, of course, in this period, Benjamin Britten would have certainly orchestrated it himself. He would have done it. In fact, after Verdi, even Puccini orchestrated all of his bandas. They didn't leave it to the bandmaster to do it. But anyway, and this scene also counterpoints, what's going on in the Moot Hall, what's going on downstage. There are actually 4 pieces, but I just took little snippets of 2 of them, just to give you an idea of the sound of this banda. All right. This is the orchestra. There it is. They're the 2 nieces who are the loose girls in town, and here they are. Banda, banda. Now one supposes, of course, I just want to say, with those sort of da-da-da-da-da-da, boom, da-da-da-da-da-da, boom, the orchestra and the singers are singing that, and the booms are coming from the stage band. Now, what one supposes that it's not, that they're not, that banda that's playing dance music is not just up there playing boom, but it's, I don't know how to explain it. That's kind of what we hear. They actually are only playing boom. But if they were playing at a dance, they wouldn't be just doing that. But it's a sort of, it's a very, I don't know, very poetic way of they're basically playing the whole thing, of course. But I didn't explain that well at all. I don't even understand what I said.
It's like an emphasis, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Now this is the second piece. This is a gallop. The first one was called Barn Dance. This is a gallop which, and Mrs. Sedley, who's the town gossip, she's coming to make trouble for Peter Grimes. She's suspicious of him, and she will not let him. Does that help?
Oh, it helps a lot.
You hear that? The clarinet too. Okay. All right, good. Well, I'm glad we've come to the end of the stage bands, because I am tired of those.
Question before you leave the thing back. There is no indication in the program for the audience to read that would indicate there's more than one. instrumental ensemble, correct?
No. The only indication in the program is that, like in Italy, the theaters have a maestro di palcoscenico, which is the maestro of the stage, which is basically what my title or people who do my work would be if we were in Italy. But here the only thing they can do is make it stage band conductor. That is listed. That the person who works does that is called stage band conductor. But maestro di palcoscenico really is a more encompassing term because it isn't only conducting a stage band, but for instance, this next section, these are things which have to be cued, and it has to be cued by a musician because all of this complicated stuff has to be coordinated. Now, this is my favorite part of this thing. I don't think you'll need it. You'll see why. It hasn't begun. But I won't tell you yet what it's going to be made. Now you know nothing's good happening. I couldn't give him the hatchet, she said. Ich habe das Bein nicht geben können. I couldn't. Sending her brother in, Orestes goes in to kill their mother. So it's a nice little, light little outfit. Now, the mother, like Minestra, would not, ordinarily it would not be screamed by the lady who sang the role, because they won't do that. No, so we get a lot of the chorus ladies, I guess, who don't really care what happens to their voice. They do it. They're paid. They're very well paid for doing it. Oh yes, they get extra screen. And we actually have stream auditions. We actually have stream auditions. Yeah, to find out, who has the most blood-curdling scream. Actually, I was outside the chorus room while they were holding the auditions. And waiting for the elevator, and but next to the classroom, there are two, soda machine and a candy machine, and the man from the company was filling the machine while these ladies were screaming. It was so funny because he looked at me like there was no music or anything, and I thought I could tell him that we get more scream. Does anyone know what this is? This is Tosca. This is the torture. And we're back there, of course, because he's off stage. We have to bring the beat. this, the actual scream comes at the end. Actually, we used to, in the very early days, the tenors never, now the tenors all do their own scream, for some reason. They do their own.
So when the soprano pretends she's screaming, the scream is coming from somewhere?
Yes, but she's off stage.
Oh, she's off stage.
She's off stage.
Oh, and how would you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tortura, here comes the scream. You can't miss this. You can tell it's a tenor screaming, right? It wasn't exactly a scream. Yeah, so that's a good ending. Now this is Peter Grimes. Mrs. Sedley got them all riled up, and they're going to Grimes's hut to get him, because at the beginning of the opera he was exonerated of killing his assistant, and now the next one's being abused, and they think so. He's trying to get them out of. He's trying to get him and the boy out of the hut while the men of the village are coming. And this scream, we had to audition someone who could actually modulate the scream to go to make it sound, you'll see. The boy falls into the water.
It's up to take a bow at the end.
Yeah, you know. Now this is great. See? The lady. Can you know what that is? That's Lulu. That's Lulu, and 9-9, and she's actually, that happens also off stage. She's singing the nines off stage. But standing next to her is the girl who will scream. So I don't know if you can tell the difference between, you can if you know that story. There was one little thing, I just did a little of the playoff music, and I don't know on this thing whether you can hear it, but let's see something. The scream's over. As the ambulances in London, because it takes place, of course, in London. Actually, she is killed there by Jack the Ripper. At this point, she's a streetwalker, and she picks up Jack the Ripper, and and that's why I think that. And now I think we have one more screen. Oh yeah, this is Carmen, just before the ladies fight in the factory. And I always have to say, quiet ladies, you're going to scream. You know, you would think that these girls who've done it so much would not be accused. But they do. I mean, they're so busy talking about what they had for supper and stuff. They're busy talking, and you say, quiet girls, listen. Now, well, actually, that's the whole chorus, the whole women's chorus. They sort of started. Well, it's not that, we don't do it that refined. Of course, these are commercial recordings, so I don't know precisely, who's doing what. But anyway, all right, moving right on. we're finished with screams, yes.
Do most composers use the technique of the band off stage?
Many, yes. Many, yes. You'd be surprised how much there is. Yes, even in the modern works, like, actually Grimes is full of not only, there's a whole section which I cut out here because it'll just really be too long, but there are wonderful sections in Grimes of not only banda, but, which you heard a little of, but there's a whole sermon with an offstage clergyman, rector, and chorus, and while there's a very serious scene going on stage where Ellen, the lady who really is the defender of Peter Grimes, she's questioning the second apprentice to find out what's going on, so she sees the bruise and things. And in that very serious scene, the whole background is this sermon going on. It's wonderful. It's a marvelous scene. It's a great scene. Anyway, unusual effects we want to. The first one is Othello.
You're still on screams.
Are we still screaming?
When Tosca jumps from parapets, does she do her own scream there? And what does she jump into?
Yeah, she does. She jumps onto mattresses. You've heard about, of course, the classic one about her bouncing back. What we have now, what they have at the Met now is of course a very thick mattress, which is on a platform that sort of, she doesn't have to go very far down. She rides it down. She can jump onto it and lay down, and then it kind of gets on it. But she doesn't really scream. Well, some of them do. I mean, she sings a high note, and sometimes it's a scream. It's not supposed to be a scream. It's Oscar Piavanti, and that's it. That's what it should be. Anyway, so unusual effects. Othello, at the very opening of Othello, there's a storm, wonderful storm, and the effect that I want to point out, which you almost will not be aware of, but I want to make you aware of it for when you go to Othello in the theater. Verdi asks for the very bottom, the three lowest notes on the organ, a pedal point, 3 notes played together, which gives you a sort of a rumbling. And of course, you won't get that from here at all, but in the theater, you know what it's like when you have a big organ playing that kind of a low sustained note. You feel it in your gut. You really do. And but in this opening, I did it anyway because it's such a wonderful opening. There are also a couple of other effects. There are 2 trumpets, and there are announcing the arrival of the ship. 2 trumpets and a cannon shot.
Do they have an organ after that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's played in the pit. It's played, the things in the pit, and the pipes are backstage. They need it for a lot. That's another thing. There are lots of organ things. All right, the opening of Othello. Oh, yes. There it is. And it plays through the whole, it pulls through the whole. Ken. That's it. That's it. Now we're going to go right on. I'm not going to even stop. This is Dialogue of the Carmelites. It's the final scene where the nuns are going to their death. by Deity. And I just love the guillotine. It's awful, isn't it? When you work at the Met Salon, you want all of this. You want people to have their hands chopped off. There's one more. Actually, I brought you the page, or just a page, that you can turn. I underlined it in yellow, and you'll see this is an Italian edition. It's called Guillottina. The Guillottina is marked. So if you want to look at it. Now this is Blanche, the last nun left. Then there's a wonderful solo. Wait. I want you to hear the end of the opera here. Oh, well, you don't really hear it. Actually, what it is that the it's very small, very pianissimo in the orchestra, but it just, the whole orchestra sort of cuts off with a, and it's almost as blood-curdling as that solo guillotine, because it's almost like the whole orchestra just kind of, and it's very effective. That was Pulak, of course. Okay, so, guillotine. Now, there's things that other nice things that I want you to hear. Butterfly. Now, you've all heard, of course, the waiting, the humming chorus, which is very beautiful, very indicative of this kind of waiting. But you might not know that besides, let's see, it's sopranos and tenors only who sing that. So, of course, they sing in unison, but that's their octave apart. So there's this octave of voice. And then in the middle between them is a viola d'amore, which plays. Sometimes we use mostly we have to use a regular viola. You don't really hear the viola, and Puccini never really wanted you to hear the viola. He wanted you, his idea was the sopranos and tenors, and this something that you couldn't quite identify was between them. You really, I'm putting it in here for Puccini, but you can't really, but it's beautiful. The pizzas are in the pit, of course. Enough already. You got the idea. Anyway, of course, it's not supposed to be a chorus, obviously. It's supposed to be another instrument, really. You know what I mean? This is Valkyrie. This is Wotan, who wants to put a ring of fire around Brunhilde to protect her at the end of Valkyrie. So he's calling on Loga, who's the god of fire. And the spear, Wotan's spear, which of course plays a big part in the whole opera, he uses the spear on a rock that's on stage to summon up the fire. And so he's got his spear at a rock, and me or somebody's behind a thing with a hammer. A big sledgehammer with and a big plate of metal. And of course, the stagehands all say, "Oh, maestro, you're leading us sledgehammer." I say, "Yeah, all these years of music school, and here I am with a sledgehammer."
How many years of music school?
4. I mean, I went to the conservatory in Chicago, but then I studied, as Linda said, in Rome with Ricci, who was a marvelous teacher for tradition, because Ricci actually worked with the last of the Puccini themes. He overlapped Puccini. Okay, now this is I don't know what it is. Oh, wait. This is a foghorn in grind. Those are the same notes of the foghorn. Here. And these are the voices. There's the foghorn. Do you know what? It's a tuba that plays. Just the backstage tuba. Yeah, it's a tuba that is, and they're different lengths. It's very fascinating. And the offstage chorus are the voices in his head. By now he's mad. He's gone. It's like the Lucia Mazzi, only very different. But okay. All right. So now we have another. Tell me when you're getting tired. We have another, because I can just go on all over.
Maybe another 10 minutes?
Pardon?
Another 10 minutes, maybe?
Another 10 minutes? All right. Have we been going that long?
About an hour.
Well, all right. We'll do a couple more of these things. I would like to. All right. Well, the thing is, I've got the whole tape queued, so I wanted to skip this, but I won't, because I think whatever I have is okay. Actually, this next thing is the scene of well, mainly what I want you to hear are okay. I want you to hear this transition scene between Ping Pong and Pong at the first scene of the second act that goes into the big scene, that goes into the big riddle scene, And Ping Pong and Pong have been doing their thing. But what happens is at this point, a banda begins to play. And the interesting thing about this, I think, is a wood block that plays along with the thing. And I believe he put it there because this is what King says. Udite il gran tamburo del... She has done her aria, and then there's a reprise of the orchestra of Buzetti's waltz. So you're in a waltz tempo and it's going in waltz time, and then suddenly the drums have to start in 2 to start a march thing. So he does it so wonderfully, and it's quite difficult to get it working, but it eventually works. Anyway, we're going to see, I thought it would be best to end with a picture. So, we're going to take it from a play, right? Here we go. Now, here. Now you start feeling it in the 2. You can't hear the drums, but they're playing. And then, of course, the banda takes it there. As the banda comes on stage, the drums continue to play the rhythm. The brass stops playing, but the drums continue. There are two drums. There we go. You know what that guy is? It's a wonderful scene. And I'm switching from coming down the stairs, looking at the conductor live, and then when we're going off stage, there's a television premiere. It's a wonderful scene.
Any modern plays on Broadway use the principle of lavanda?
Not really, no. Not that I, yeah, they don't, I mean, a lot of the Broadway shows now have like a little, the only orchestra of the evening on stage somewhere behind the set sometimes, if they don't, you know, it's a new way of doing things. But, no, there is no such thing as the band. But I hope you, will, when you go to the opera next and you see that there's a banda, that you'll have an idea of what's going on. Yeah. Well, it depends. It depends. If you can hear that they're going, like those people were the banda people, so they were playing, but not always. No, and in fact, it depends on different productions, even like of La Boheme. We have done productions where the whole thing is played off stage and supernumeraries come on, you know, they're pretending to play.
Can the audience tell the difference?
Probably not, yeah, probably not. But you know, when this was new, the production was new, it was Zeffirelli, it's a still Zeffirelli production. And he had the experience of doing, the set is so immense and the staircase is so, he had the idea of sending the banda on, you know, without a conductor, without someone, and it just never worked. So they said, you or somebody. That's a good question. Not actually hard. Some of them are. It depends. If they, I forget what their, like if they get a fifth performance, if they're going to do a fifth performance, there's a big penalty for that. So they say, no, you can't do the banda. But a lot of them like, for instance, maybe if they did 3 performances in the pit and their 4th performance is the banda in Bohème, that's great because they're finished early. They're finished by 9 o'clock. That's all that matters is when you're finished.
I want to tell you a story. Some years ago, my wife and I went to see Don Giovanni. It was at, I think, the State Theater. And there's that little episode where somebody plays the mandolin, I think it is, on stage.
Right.
Well, we noticed a tall blonde woman with long straight hair coming with a mandolin during the performance, and she got into the orchestra pit about a minute before the time that that solo went on. And while the person faked it on stage, she played the part with the
Yeah,
mandolin.
sure.
And as soon as it was finished, she just packed up and went home.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and well, that's very common there. That mandolin, that's for the serenade. Isn't it?
Yes.
That's always played in the bit by
But
mandolin.
you just arrived, just in time, it was before it was late.
But we were on tour once with that. I was playing, in Magic Flute, there's a glockenspiel, Papageno's thing,
Okay.
and that's a keyboard in the pit. And we were in somewhere, I don't remember, and I did the same thing. I came in just for that, and you're not going to sit there the whole evening just to play, that it plays like 3 times. So anyway, I was going into the pit, and it was a very strange pit with a kind of a door that had a big, heavy iron door that slammed closed, and I got my finger caught. So I walked into the pit going, and the conductor was looking at me. You said, "Are you going to be able to play?" And I don't know, I've never, who knows? Anyway, you can do anything. You can dance with a broken leg. Anyway.